security information, for physical and psychological resilience, and for information on how to thrive in adversity. So you'll see today's video is a slightly different format. I've decided to try and improve the viewer's experience and try something new. It's also probably why there was a little bit of a delay in the next video, which is this one. And the video today is again in the situational awareness section, all about personal security. Specifically, this video is focused for the men and women in the private security industry and people that use a firearm during the course of their duty, but it is equally as applicable to all of you out there. And it has to do with threat identification and threat prioritization. In other words, identifying what is a threat in your environment and then prioritizing which threats you need to deal with first. So let's jump right into it. I might be a little bit rusty with some of the tools here, but let's give it a go. So the first way to understand what is a threat, okay, is very simple, okay? What are they doing with their hands? Remember I spoke to you about that practice exercise in the awareness section of our personal security, and I said check people's hands, okay? What are they doing with their hands, number one? And number two is, can you see their hands? Those are your primary questions to ask when you want to identify a threat within your environment, and it's a very simple process, okay? There's a consideration though, is that not everyone with a weapon in their hands might be a threat, okay? You might have a team member or a fellow tactical officer with you or support from your neighbors. So it's not as simple as just seeing a gun in someone's hands and identifying that as a threat, okay? You've got to have a level of awareness in your head that can also differentiate between friend and foe. But first of all, and primarily, is what are they doing with their hands? What is in their hands? Can you see their hands? Okay, let's move on. So the next part of this process of threat identification and threat prioritization is sometimes it's not as simple as actually finding somebody that has a weapon in their hands, okay? It's not as simple as seeing someone that has a firearm already displayed and approaching you. And you have to kind of work out from other tips or early warning systems that that person could potentially be a threat. So the first part is actually the waistline. Okay, the waistline is where you carry all your weapons. The waistline is where you will conceal your firearm, conceal a knife, and hide other tools that can cause harm. So checking a person's waistline, their belt line, okay, is a very important factor in understanding whether or not they could be an imminent threat. The next one is eyes, okay? Eyes, I say to you guys, because eyes are a very easy way to tell if somebody is targeting you is if they're staring at you, okay? It might just be staring at you for other purposes because they find you strangely attractive, but it is still a predatory response, okay? It's still somebody looking at you, and what people do with their eyes very much indicates what their intentions are. Right. Another aspect that you can look at that I said there is movement. If movement is linear and direct and it's coming straight towards you, that is a pre-indicator. That's an early warning that that person is about to become an imminent threat. Okay? So movement's also very important. And finally, posture. All right, how people carry themselves is an incredibly easy way of identifying what are their next moves going to be. All right, because your weapon, whatever weapon you're carrying, it evolves around the posture you have, and your posture will cater towards the weapon you're carrying. In other words, if you're using a firearm, your posture will be one way. If you're using a heavy instrument, it will be another way. If you're using a knife, it's going to be a different way. So that is another aspect of early warnings that you need to understand. So let's just go through that again. The first thing was identifying what threats are in your environment. The second one was getting early warnings for those threats in your environment when they are not immediately identifiable. In other words, you can't see a weapon in their hands, okay, and yet you can see both of their hands. Right, let's talk about this now. What threat do you deal with first? In other words, this is where we talk about threat prioritization. Especially in a tactical situation, if you're an armed response officer, if you're a member of the South African Police Service, if you are a tactical officer in a tactical unit that's doing community protection, and you come across a situation where there are multiple threats, how do you then choose which threat to engage first? Okay? First of all, again, what is in their hands? In other words, what are their force capabilities? Is the person carrying a blunt instrument? Is it a knife? Is it a shotgun? Is it an assault rifle? Is it a handgun? That will very much determine what category threat they're in and what priority you should give them. So, what is it that they are using to maximize their force? All right. The second one is who can do the most damage? Again, so depending on what that weapon is within their hands, okay, how much damage could they do to you or other people? All right. And how easily would they be able to do that damage with the tool that they're using? Okay. In other words, if a person has a sawn off shotgun and they're standing 3 to 5 meters away from you, even if they're only a mediocre marksman, they're still a major threat. Okay, whereas if that person was standing 15 meters away and they were using a handgun, their level of threat diminishes significantly because of the difficulty in being accurate with a handgun over distance. Okay, most people cannot shoot a handgun accurately at more than 7 meters out. Thank goodness for us, because that goes to the bad guys as well. Right. And that comes down to the final thing, which is proximity. So, proximity meaning how close is the person to you? How close is that person to you? What range is that potential threat from you? And one of the ways that I prioritize threats is depending on how close they are to me and whether or not they are in my safe zone. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, remember always that if anyone is within a certain distance from you, they are always potentially a threat. Why is that? Okay, because if they're in between sort of 1.5 to 3 meters from you as a person, they can within less than a second make contact with you with their physical body. Okay, they can reach out and grab you, never mind wield a weapon against you. So that safe zone around you is also very important. Okay, and people within that safe zone, like if you're standing in a queue, people are in that safe zone. The people behind you and the people in front of you. You've got to understand that they can have an immediate effect on you physically, should they wish to, because they are in range to do so. You got to think about how you're going to move if you need to. So those are your threat categorizations. What threats are the most significant based on what they're doing with their hands, okay, based on their capacity to maximize force, and based on proximity. All right. There are also other ways you can categorize threats, but those are 3 simple ways that I've used effectively in my career. So let's wrap this up. First of all, wrapping up, notice that nice graphic. Hands, okay? Threat identification relates to what are they doing with their hands. Remember the consideration of not everyone that has a weapon in their hands might be a threat. They might also be a guardian, an ally, or some part of a support service, okay? The second one is heads up. In other words, early warnings to potential threats. Check the waistline, check eye contact and eye movement, check physical movement. All right. Those are 3 early warnings that threat might be imminent. All right. Ranking meaning categorize those threats from the most significant threat to the least, okay, in that situation. And then finally, I'd like to give you another situational awareness tip, which is a very simple one that I learned from a former member of the Brixton murder and robbery unit. And that was eyes up. Okay, keep your eyes up. Very simply, your situational awareness is very diminished if you are looking down all the time and you're not maintaining an eyes up visual field that can take in information as it comes. So keeping your eyes up is a very basic, simple aspect of your situational awareness and more so your personal security. So if you can take that tip and the rest of the information in this video and it makes your work safer out there, ladies and gentlemen of the private security industry, guys in their tactical units, armed response officers, people that are providing close protection, people that are providing static armed security, members of the South African Police Service. I hope this video will assist you and those members of the public and the people that watch my videos. Use this also to identify and categorize threats in your environment. I hope you like this video. Please continue to like and subscribe. And kids, I'm so sorry. You're going to have to deal with it, but Daddy is still on YouTube.